Hi, I'm Tara. I'm a writer-director of the film Match.mom.
Hello, I'm Eileen Hanley. I'm the writer, director, and actor in What Are We? And I'm based in New York City.
Let me start with one of the things that both of your films have in common is online dating. What made you decide, yeah, this needs to be a part of what we're doing here?
So I, used to use the apps like one does when trying to find dates. And there was always like the fear of running into an ex, and swiping whatever, or not knowing whether to swipe one way. But then one night I was just thinking like, who would be worse to run into on an app? And the thought of a parent popping up would probably be a
Mom.
nightmare.
Yeah.
And that was all I had for the idea. And I just wrote that down, that one little sentence of what would happen next.
Wow, that's really good. I haven't seen your film, but that really makes me want to watch it because that would be a nightmare. Mine is it's about two friends who also have sex and then they match with a third on a dating app and they have a threesome. And I think that especially queer people, especially like polyamorous queer people, like they are all on the apps and the apps they're not like a great place. Like I don't really love being on them. But every once in a while you find someone who's like really awesome. My current girlfriend, we met on Tinder, and I do think that there is love to be had. What Are We was like very, very loosely inspired by a real relationship that I had with someone who I met on an app. I've actually met a lot of great people on apps, so I do stand by them, but they're very anxiety inducing and stressful. But I think it is one of the main ways that queer people meet each other. So kind of a necessary evil.
Tara, especially after seeing yours, I couldn't decide whether creating the profile would be more stressful for me or the whole interacting with other humans. They both seem just incredibly stressful to me. The other thing that your films have in common is language and communicating. Eileen, it's in the title of yours. Is there a word that describes what we are? And Tara, in yours, I loved the multi-generational aspect of it. I mean, that within, Eileen, you were saying within a queer and poly circle, you have sort of a set language. You can express what you want and what you're willing to offer. So I thought maybe we should talk a little bit about that as well, language and how you communicate.
Yeah, so after the accidental swipe happens, it's kind of like, well, what comes next from this? And in terms of, in my film, you think it's going to be about the daughter coming out, but really the twist is it's about the mom coming to terms with who she is and not knowing what she's doing with the apps. Like my own mom doesn't know how to email. So it's like, it's so hard to figure out when you're jumping into it. And especially, an older generation who might not have had the platforms to come out, the safe spaces, So I wanted to really show that like you can discover yourself at any age and it might be complicated and complex, but that there is space for it.
And yours gets handed down, right? So that ultimately there is a conversation between mom and the daughter, but then the two of them have to go talk to dad. And that's an entirely different set of expectations as far as language.
Yeah, I just wanted to show that coming out, there can also be a world where it can be accepted right away. It doesn't have to be met with fear. Unfortunately, when I came out to my own mom, it was met with a lot of fear and confusion, and it took a lot of years just to find an understanding and a place where we could both talk about it. And my dad, who I thought was going to have a similar reaction to my mom, and actually had the complete opposite reaction.
Oh, nice.
And was immediately fine with it. And it was more stressful to come out to my dad than my mom. And it just shows you that like in life and people who you think you know so well can always surprise you.
That is really great and really true.
In your film, there's a scene, Jess and Kaylee are at the bar, I think, and they talk about the third immediately as, oh, well, definitely a top. And the the dynamic of that, where again, there's a shared language where you can make your needs known.
Yeah, I think that it's funny because, like, yes, of course, there's like top and bottom. I think one of the things about the film that is changing in my mind, like as I kind of grow just as a person, is like top and bottom is really not so binary like in real life.
Right.
And that is one of the things where I'm like, I think if I were going to go back and redo it, I might let up a little bit on the hard binary of top and bottom that I kind of created. But, you know, it was what was true for me at the time. And I am wearing a bracelet that says bottom. So, you know, that exists. But I think that for what was most important to me about making it is the fact that we get into relationships, and especially like in dating nowadays, it kind of really is this very nebulous question of like, what is this? Are we friends who are fucking? Are we is it like a situationship? That's kind of its own term. Are we lovers? Are we exclusive? There's all these kind of things that it can be. And I do think it's important to check in with each other kind of regularly and be like, okay, so like, this is what I'm interpreting that this is. Is that true for you? It can be ever evolving and changing. It doesn't have to be set in stone. And I think also like with Kaylee and Jess, they are friends and they have sex, but they're not romantically involved. They don't feel that way toward each other. They don't want to be like a couple, and that requires communication. So I think it was just important for me to see these people like talking about that. They're not like girlfriends, you know?
Yeah. Even, or maybe especially in that last conversation in the little hallway where it's so awkward for both of them, but the issue needs to be raised and it needs to be addressed. And they do it. And I thought that was a great scene because it seemed so cringeworthy. But for the two of them, for two people who have this arrangement, and they need to know, what are we?
Yeah. And I think it's, even though like, yes, it's awkward to talk about, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't talk about it.
One film specific question for each of you. Eileen, the set dressing in yours is incredible. I've watched it 3 times now, and each time there's some new little object that I'm like, oh, that is so cool. The most recent viewing, it was the hacksaw earring.
Oh, yes.
That
Who's wearing
cool.
that? Tanya?
Yes.
I'm so glad that you think that and that you're complimenting that. That was like, we had 0 budget for set dressing, and it was really, really kind of not something we looked at very closely. I think that earring is just Soph, who played Tanya. I think that was just like their earring that they were wearing. And then, yeah, we went and did like a lot of the set dressing of like the B-roll of like when you can hear the sounds of them having sex, and you can see like different parts of the apartment and like a stack of books and like incense and like candles that are shaped like women's bodies and stuff. Those are just the DP, Emily Kordovich. That was her apartment, and those are things that she had lying around that we put in little arrangements. But yeah, it turned out really great. And thank you for saying that. I appreciate that.
There were a couple of times where I was like, I'd put that poster up. Tara, one of the things that I loved about yours is that as the complications unravel, we find out that both of the parents did not think very highly of Josh, and that are kind of relieved that Josh isn't going to be in the picture anymore.
Yeah, I had a Josh in high school. You know, it's like
a mustache.
It's just like that starter boyfriend. He's over the top. He's really cringe. He's overconfident when he shouldn't be. And I just really wanted that element, especially in our opening scene, of a girl who could be a match for him, just is not a straight person, and he's so confused as to why. But I mean, it's so much more than that, because the parents also are like, who is this guy? So I just to keep that in there as a running joke.
We could just talk all afternoon about these films, but just last to each of you, shout outs to cast, crew, folks who made real contributions to your short film.
everyone. Like, you know, there's moments in the process where it does feel very isolating, but then once your whole team comes together, it is such a team collaboration in sport. My early collaborators were my casting director, my DP, my actors, Christine and Jennifer. Like, we got 1,200 submissions for our 2 lead roles. And
Wow.
I'm just so glad to have found them because they really, you know, brought it all together. So just really grateful for everyone that was a part of this.
Wow, that's awesome. 1,200 submissions. That's crazy. Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, I really could not have done it without my associate director, Gonzelle Pelavan. She was my eyes and ears when I was in a scene, and I'd never directed myself before, which was really challenging, and she totally made it possible. I couldn't have done it without her. And also my friend Felicia Blum was the intimacy coordinator, and she was so great also. Such a necessary role.
I noticed that in the credits as well. Yeah.
Yes. There's a lot of intimacy, and also as the person who is directing it and is acting in it, you need a third person there you can't just be like, okay, so make out with me now, you know? So she was great, very integral. And then our DP, Emily Kordovich, she was amazing. And yeah, everyone was great. It was an entirely queer cast and crew, and except for one of the sound mixers, which was in post. So yeah, it was a really awesome team.
Well, thank you both for this. I can't wait to share the films with folks in a couple of weeks.
I know, so exciting.
Yes, thanks so much for having us. This is great. And Eileen, I need to see your film.
Yes, Tara, I'm gonna follow you on Instagram. So
perfect. Yeah, maybe we'll be in another festival together.
I hope so.